Hey guys, welcome back to more AFK Arena. In today's video, we're going to be doing an updated version of the optimal or the best wishlist heroes. This is just, once again, my opinion and what I would do if I was on a fresh account or midway through an account and the new heroes have come out. These are the wishlists I would go for, so let's get into it. Okay, so kicking it off, what I might do is I'm going to go through each faction, do the staple ones, and then come back to them and do the fill-in ones. So when we look at Lightbearers for early game, like for everyone, Rowan's just complete staple. For early game, I still think Lucius is worth it. He does drop off in the later game, but for the amount of boosted progression he can do for you in the early game, I still think Lucius is fantastic to have on the wish list. If you haven't really got Lucius and you've got yourself to like chapter 23, 24, probably not a vital hero to put on the wish list. And then we have Rosaline. Rosaline's just strong in so many situations, and those are going to be the three core heroes that I would always put on my wish list. Once again, Lucius sometimes maybe not, but for early game he's just so strong. Then we jump into Maulers. Maulers for me, they still land the two that I would always put on a wish list, and if I can find it, the first one is Sophia. Amazing damage dealer, huge AoE damage, and then she's got the pyramid as well, which can weaken your enemies, buff your teammates. She's just, in my opinion, still the best Mauler. And then Brutus is the other one. So Brutus was, like, at the start of the game, everyone thought Brutus was the man, and he's dropped off a lot. However, his niche use in some situations where his invincibility and also his roar, not just decreasing the defense, but also stopping enemies from dodging, can be very important in certain stages, even though he's not used everywhere. And for that, he still gets a place on all of my wish lists. And the thing is, worst case, you do get him up there. There's that many dimensionals that keep getting introduced to the game, so you can fuse him to a dimensional and just basically beef that dimensional up for the whole time. And then if you do have that niche situation where you need the Brutus, you have him there to put him in. So those are my two absolute staples for Maulers. Then we have Wilders. Now, Wilders have always had a staple wish list to me, which is Iron and Saurus. Iron, just because he is just so versatile. Iron just keeps getting better with more heroes that come into the game, because a lot of things have a synergy. The fact that he can just drag enemies in makes him incredibly strong, and there's so many synergies that keep coming up with that. So I feel like Iron is never going to be a bad hero in the game, and he's really strong. He gets the ignore defense. He's just crazy. Saurus, boss battle king. I also do like him everywhere else. I just think he's a great hero in general. But boss battles, it's going to be tough for Saurus to get outpaced in boss battles, just due to the fact that he not only does enormous damage, but he also provides entire team healing with his signature item at 30. So he's one of those ones where I can't see him getting phased out anytime soon in boss battles, because not only does he bring the most damage, he also nullifies the need to have a healer on your team, because he does the damage and the healing. So that's why he's always going to be there for me. Then we have Tassie and Leica. Tassie, just amazing. She's got the banish on a single target. Then she also has the sleep, which sleeps the whole enemy team. Incredibly strong. She's also very nimble with her teleport, being able to dodge, avoid damage, and all that stuff. And also really good for counterplays against certain other CC, because she can dodge CC with her teleport and stay alive, and then CC the enemy team by herself. So she's fantastic. Then we have Leica. The haste at the start of the battle that Leica brings is just enormous. Can really change the tide of things. It allows you to get everything off before your enemy can. So I often find in campaign, if I fight against an enemy Leica, I have to bring my Leica, otherwise I just feel like I cannot get anything off quick enough. So she is absolutely amazing. On top of that, if you do get her to 9 furniture when she is ascended, she's effectively just going to hit 2 targets the whole time, and she ends up dealing a lot of damage as well. Also, on top of that, the passive defense break is huge, so she's going to defense break enemies that she hits. And like I said, when she starts hitting 2, she's always defense breaking them, and then her ultimate is going to defense break everyone. So really strong. And this last spot, I used to have Namora as my staple in there. However, with the introduction of Pippa, I would now put Pippa. Now this one is up to you. You can choose Namora, you can choose anything you want, and that's something I'm going to bring in right now. If there's a hero that you do want to play with and you just like them, if you like Solace and you just want to play with her, that's cool. Do whatever you have fun doing, because it's a game. fun is the main thing. We're just talking a bit more optimally here. So Nomura, but I do like the idea of Pippa now. Pippa, just because basically if you put her with Tassie, she's guaranteed to use Tassie's, but even if you don't put her with Tassie, she can use Tassie's ultimate, she can use Nomura's ultimate, she can use Arden's ultimate. She also turns enemies into acorns. She's just got she's got a teleport for an enemy that's going to stun enemies. She's got a lot of CC, a bit of randomness to her, but the randomness is sometimes good in campaign battles because you can keep retrying until you get that right RNG that you need to actually clear the stage. So that is how my Wilder wishlist would look on any account I play from now on, unless obviously I already have something ascended. That's the wishlist I go for. Now we jump into Graveborn, and Graveborn have been buffed a lot recently. So they've always had the staples of Pharrell and Nara, in my opinion. They've always been incredibly strong. Pharrell, he's going to reduce enemies' energy, he's going to fear them, his signature item is going to then stun them. His furniture item is going to then stun them. His signature item is also going to reduce their attack. He's got so much to him. He's just an absolute fantastic unit. Nara for that single target lockout. Really, really strong on the lockout. Also does some really high single target damage as well, especially with her execute. So Nara is absolutely fantastic as well, and just can really get you out of a pickle in some stages. Now, past that, Isolde has earned himself a spot on my staple wishlist for Graveborn, purely to the fact of his level 3 furniture. The fact that he can scale his attacks so high is ridiculous, but when you do get this guy to 30 signature item and 9 furniture as well, he just keeps getting better. But if you can get this guy ascended, put him to 3 furniture, he becomes a viable damage dealer as well. On top of all that, he's got an AoE stun, he's got a single target, I think it's a knockdown, which is basically a stun. He just oozes damage. He's got his ultimate's going to heal half the HP he's lost. He's got the passive heal that's going to keep restoring HP that he's lost. Just really, really solid unit all round, and he definitely gets a spot now. Until he gets to 3 furniture, he's not amazing. However, in early game leveling, I'm talking like the first 10 chapters, he's absolutely phenomenal. So also really good in those early stages as well. The next one is going to be Stitchy or Damon, whatever you want to call him. This guy is just an absolute savage. The fact that he steals HP from the enemies based on their max HP, it just gives him infinite scaling. Like he can't get broken. Like there's no attack limit on this damage. It's just that amount of HP he's stealing, so he can deal mass amounts of damage to enemies. Also, the handy thing about him is he does stay in the back row, and Stitchy goes forward. Stitchy does have the stuns, and obviously he's getting shielded when he steals the health. He's just really good. He can survive really well, but also deal massive damage, especially in campaign and tower. In PvP, he's not as fantastic just due to the fact that everything's a bit low, like everything's evenly scaled, whereas in campaign and tower, your enemies are that much higher level, so the effective damage he's doing from that HP percent damage is going to be huge. So that is that one. Now, the last slot, this is one that I've thought about. He's only new to the game now, but personally, if I was starting an account right now, I would put Silas. We still need to do some more testing on him, but just the way, not only he heals, but the way he buffs his allies is absolutely insane. Now, once again, take this one with a grain of salt. He's highly untested. He's only out on the test server at the time of making this video. He's not out on global server. And if this changes, I will probably put it somewhere, but take it with a grain of salt. Look up more stuff if you're watching this, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a year in the future. He may not be there, but at this stage, I just feel like the amount of buffing he does for his allies, 50% attack buff, and then on top of that, you also have his furniture item, which is going to give them a 50% attack speed and on their basic attack, and I think it was an extra 30% attack rating on them, or power, I can't exactly remember, but he buffs his allies massively. On top of that, he is going to do healing. He's going to reduce your enemies healing that they receive as well. Just an all-round great support in my opinion, and he would be the final staple one in my opinion. Now, there is the idea of Shamira. Now, in early game, in a lot of videos that I've made, I've spoken about Shamira being, especially for free-to-play, the optimal hero for early game progression. She does fall off a lot in the end game. However, she is so strong in that early game, which makes it good, and she can get her from Labyrinth. However, with the introduction of so many dimensional heroes and the way we obtain them at the moment, which requires your labyrinth coins, it leaves you with the spot where you're unable to actually get the copies of Shimura that you need to ascend her if you're saving for the dimensionals, which I definitely think is the right thing to do because they're limited only and you really want to get them. So for that reason, if I started a free-to-play account tomorrow, this would be my wish list because I'd just go with the RNG of whatever I get from summons. The game is very generous in giving resources, especially lately. There's a lot of things to help free-to-play players and light spenders progress. So I feel like you should be able to get enough summons to have a carry hero built. And when we look at these lists, even Aioli can be used as an early game carry. You can use Daemon, you've got Euron, you've got Saurus. Sophia's not so great, but you can use her. And then we can fill in some early game carries with these remaining slots to make it happen. So at the moment, as it stands, and if they keep doing dimensionals the way they are, where they take all of your labyrinth coins, I wouldn't be putting Shimura on the wish list, and I would be putting him. Due to the fact that he just seems like an amazing support. Another niche option that I've done a few times is Odin, but due to the fact of Aioli getting buffed and also Daemon coming into the game, Odin has sort of dropped off. And like I said, I'm going to put Silas in there now. So those are the staples. Lightbearers and Maulers for me have a bit of wiggle room. But Wilders and Graveborn are pretty well set for me in anything I do. That's what I'd probably have. Now, for the other options for Lightbearers, there's a few. Belinda, I think you get 3 or 4 copies early on in the game. You get the Elite Plus version straight away. You do get another one through campaign. So pretty much you just have to summon one and then you have her at mythic capability in early game, which can be very viable for free-to-play players to, have that hero that you're almost going to be guaranteed to get to mythic early on. So that can be strong. Belinda is an option. She's not as fantastic in the end game. For me personally, I'm not huge on her. That's just me. I know a lot of people love her, so she can be good. Gwyneth is one that I would always put as a staple. I really enjoy her gameplay and she's amazing in the late game. However, she's not as good early game due to the fact that her arrows, when she gets a lightning arrow, it's going to stun enemies in a line. However, this only applies above level 220. So she's going to be... You're going to have her on the wish list. You can actually use her early game and get some effect out of her. When she gets flaming arrows, they do reduce healing and stuff like that. But she's not as good as she once was since they changed it so that she no longer stuns until level 221. So keep that in mind, but just having her on the wish list to build her for later is going to be very viable. And then the last slot, there's a lot of different options. I really do like Cecilia. She's very important for the Abyssal Expedition and stuff like that, and also for early game boss battles. Early game boss battles, when you don't have every hero built, she is very important for even against Riz and Soren. For putting her up against them to reduce their attack with her ring can get you a lot higher scores in the early game. Once again, when you don't have every hero available to you, she can be really good. So this is probably the wish list I would normally use. But other heroes you can use, I said Belinda. I see some people going Estrilda as well. Estrilda does have some uses. I still wouldn't go there. But those are pretty much the main options from my end. If you are going Gwyneth, you can also consider Hendrik. But he wouldn't, for me, normally be in the second wave of heroes that I put in there. But if you are going to try and carry with a Gwyneth, then this is the sort of wish list I would put, because then you can have the synergy of Gwyneth and Hendrik, because Hendrik knocks enemies back really strong. And the last one I want to mention is Forks. Forks is still strong. I just don't see him used as much. He seems to be getting phased out more and more as more heroes come into the game. He used to be a really good control hero. However, he does have niche uses where he can remove enemy buffs. Really good against Lucius and Brutus and stuff like that. So I'll put in what I would actually do if I was doing an account, and then we jump over to Maulers. So the next picks we have over here, for me, I would always go the chicken. This is a very biased opinion on me. I love the synergies between the chicken and Euron. He can, with his furniture, drag the enemies in together and allow Euron to grab all of the enemies at once. I really do like that synergy. So he is one that I would normally put. You can pretty much choose whatever you like in the Maulers. It's pretty much personal preference. There's none that I would say definitely don't do. I'd probably steer clear of Kassos, just because he can be gotten from the labyrinth later on, and stuff like that. Screg can too, but I actually like Screg a little bit. Like, they're both decent, but just because they can be obtained from the labyrinth store, they just drop a little bit of priority for me. Even though you're not going to get them that soon. But Maulers are in a really awkward position. I feel like the whole faction just needs to get a bit of a buff. But for me, the other options I would normally go to are Titus. I just really like Titus. Once again, this is a personal thing. He's really cool, although he does have some niche uses in the late game. And that's where Maulers start to come a bit more into the game in the very late game. In that sort of chapter 25 to like 30, 31, they're not too great, but then they do start to see some more viability. And then something like Warwick can be really nice for bosses. He's got a massive defense break, which is at the moment best in slot for bosses. However, I still hold the opinion that eventually Warwick is going to get phased out of boss fights, and once he does, he's not going to have too many uses. Another one is going to be Totem Dude. His totems are really annoying. He did get a buff a while back, which made him more viable. So this is the sort of wish list I normally go with on my accounts for the Maulers. But like I said, besides Brutus and Sophia, Chicken's the next most important one in my mind, but that is personal preference, and then you can pretty much choose whatever you want. So that is going to be it. That is another little look at the wish list at the moment. Once again, a bit of personal bias in these ones. Take it with a grain of salt, and if you do just have a hero that you want to play with because you think they look cool or you think you'll have fun playing with them, go nuts. It's a game. Fun is the aim of it. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.